Previously, we saw how to use the bind operation for monads in order to compose monadic interactions together. And we used these maybe functions to get the most significant value from a number. Well, we can see this running again just to make sure we remember how it works. So if we say get it done, and this takes a value of x, some number, so we get 4, 5, 6, and we return the maybe value, just the most significant digit is 4. Now, this bind operation here allows us to stick monadic output together without having to deal with that ourselves, because for example here the types don't line up for the input of the next function. So by using this bind, we can sidestep having to define all of these as maybe ints to maybe strings or whatever they might be, and this takes some of the work off of us. Now, there is another way to write this using something called do notation. So I'll show you how to do that in this video. So if we label get it done 2, and this takes a value of x, and then we have to do something. Now, the do notation is syntactic sugar for this sort of bind operation here, so we can use it in monadic instances to get rid of the bind and make our code a little bit more concise, a bit more readable, a bit clearer. It's also very much used in input-output operations, which we'll be looking at shortly, or soon even, because the input-output monad is a monad. So using do allows us to hide all of the bind operations that would otherwise be cluttering up our screen. So how do we do this? Well, do is the keyword, and then we can work from there. So let's say do, and we get some value y, which comes from, what would that be, get segnum of x. So what this is saying is, for some temporary variable y, which I'm going to work with, or some variable y, I want you to assign that the value of get signum x. Now, we are in the world of monads now, so these temporary variables are a little bit different from the ones that we're used to. For example, you can use monads to mutate state, which is something we can't otherwise do in Haskell, but I don't really want you to worry about that right now. This is just to give us a name so that we can feed the value from this output into the next part, which will be, so we have z, which is int to string, and we feed this y. And because we've assigned this value y, we can now pass it on to the next operation and bind that to a variable name. And then the final step would be polish string on z, because z is the output that we've had so far. So if we save this and we reload, everything compiles fine, which is good, that's what we want to see. And if we write get it done 2, and we give this 4, 5, 6 again, we get the same output. Just to see that that's the same, we get the same output again. So you can see that these two are equivalent. However, you could imagine that if you have a very long list of operations, this kind of style of notation might become a little bit easier. Indeed, you don't always have to bind these things to variables if you're just returning things. If we were doing some input-output, we could always do something like I'll put string and define some string that gets pushed to output. So you don't always need to bind things to these variables, but I just wanted to show you this do notation, which is syntactic sugar for the bind. We will need this when we go on to input-output. We'll need this whenever we're working with monads if we want to make our code a little bit quick, concise, a bit more readable. But that's everything for today. Just wanted to let you know that this do notation exists, that you can get rid of this bind operation, and that you can use it to create temporary variable to pass to functions. But that's everything for today. I hope you found this useful. Of course, if you have any questions about this, please do let me know. Thanks.